plethora of resources at your fingertips. So how do you get to the Google Drive for Desktop page? You would go to the Google Workspace portion, and then you will see a table that contains all the apps that we pretty much support, and you can learn more about whatever app you're wanting to learn. In this case, there's actually a separate page regarding Google Drive for Desktop. So I'm going to go ahead and take you to the Google Drive for Desktop. And the reason why I'm pointing you actually to the page of Google Drive for Desktop is because it does have a little more bells and whistles, customized training for you regarding Google Drive for Desktop. Google Drive for Desktop is being used for some of the agencies throughout the state. Not everybody is using it. A lot of people do like Google Drive for Desktop, and we really wanted to make a one-stop shop for those users that are using this desktop application. So if you are new to Google Drive for Desktop, or your agency is new and they're not attending this session, I would strongly recommend to have them go here first and then watch this video, and they'll find out all the resources that we're going to go over with today. So if you are a user that is not using Google Drive for Desktop and wants to, and don't know if you have it installed, I'm not going to go over that today, but I do have great instructions right there that says install Google Drive for Desktop. So you can follow that slide deck once you click on that button, and it'll tell you how to install Google Drive for Desktop. More than likely, you already have Google Drive installed, especially if you've got a newer computer. It's part of the package when they install Google Drive for Desktop. So you could go ahead and do that. The rest of them we're going to go over together. But maybe some of you fall into the bucket like, what is she talking about? What is Google Drive for Desktop? Well, we're going to talk more about that in the slide deck. But let me show you, just in case we talked about it briefly in the beginning in the advanced, is you would actually navigate to your My Drive, your Google My Drive, the Chrome web interface, pretty much through your File Explorer. So for example, in my example, and I'm in Windows 11, so my screen is going to be slightly different than yours, but the concept's the same. You would actually find Google Drive letter. It might be different per agency. Majority is letter M as in mom. Okay, but it might be a different letter for you, but it will definitely have Google Drive in front of that. Okay, with that being said, you would then find My Drive. Some of you might find Shared Drive, which is not the same as shared with me, so do not get that confused. But regardless, you have a My Drive for sure. And you click on your My Drive, and you will see the exact same folder infrastructure that you see in your Chrome web interface. So if I would go to my Chrome, I would then see, let's just make sure I have it. So the first folder I see is Classroom. Let's go to My Drive in my Chrome web interface, and the first folder I see is Classroom. See? So actually, I can get to the same destination that way. So really, in a nutshell, Google Drive for Desktop is a tool that you can install on your computer to let you access your files. So that's just giving you kind of a, here's what it looks like, but let's really dive into it a lot more. Okay. So back to the website that I was on the Google Drive for Desktop. Again, if you want to learn how to install it, click on this and follow the prompts. And again, more than likely you already have it, which I have a web quest in there. So if you have it, it'll tell you to go to step 9 and go to the next step. Okay. If you needed more additional help with that and you can't seem to follow the instructions, please fill out a ServiceNow ticket, and Insight or your own IT department will help you take care of it. I do not have remote access to help you. So please, if you are struggling with it, please submit a ticket and go from there, and someone will guide you and help you to get Google Drive for Desktop installed. So what is Google Drive and Chrome web interface and Google Drive for Desktop? Some of this will be slightly repeat, but we'll go through that together. So we need to understand how this all works together, and we piece everything that we've kind of learned. And the reason why I taught the way I did and guided you a certain way is for this particular reason. Okay. So let's get started. Some of it we already know what Google Drive is. We know that it's stored in the cloud. We have unlimited storage. We're not going to go through all that because we already know that, right? We've talked about this. This was exactly the same slide deck that we saw in the beginning Google Drive training, right? We know all this. So Again, we know it's stored in the cloud, it's secure, it's safe, we can keep files, photos, all sorts of fun things, Microsoft Office files, all sorts of things. We know we can access it multiple ways. Moving on, we know that by now. But what is really Google Drive in the Chrome web interface? Let's look at it visually. We know we can get to Google Drive through the Chrome browser by going to the waffle and then going to the Drive icon. We have already done that in the beginning, in the intermediate. We know that too now, right? We got that down. Now, what is Google Drive for Desktop? We already gave you a little sneak peek of what that is, but let's just make sure we completely understand it. It's a desktop application that allows you to quickly access your Google Drive files from your computer. Okay, we can actually save files and folders directly to that location, and it will be both in the Chrome web interface and accessible through the Google Drive for Desktop. Okay, I'm also going to apologize in advance. It has changed names. If you hear me say Drive File Stream, you will also know that it's the same thing. Maybe some of you know it as Drive File Stream. Know that Drive File Stream is the same thing as Google Drive for Desktop. Google just needed to change the name, okay? So you can see in this screenshot, in my example, again, please understand, it could be a customized for you, but in my example, it's Google Drive, letter M. It could be a different letter, and then you see your My Drive, just like I just showed you. All right, now we got to break it down a little bit more. Let's go on a trip. Let's go on a trip. Let's pretend we're going on vacation. We all need vacation. All right, so we're just going to stay in the United States and we're going to go on a trip and we're going to decide to just pick Vegas. We're going to Vegas, we're going to win it big, and we will never have to work again and we won't have to hear about any of this, right? So good news, right? Let's pretend. So we know we can get to Vegas either by flying, right? We can get on a plane and take off, or we can drive. What's the destination? The destination is Vegas. Regardless, we can get there by flying or driving to Vegas. Okay? We understand that. We have two options, right? Well, how does it work with Google Drive? Think of it this way. Our destination is no longer Vegas. I'm sorry to disappoint you, but it's actually, our destination is Google Drive. So we can go to Google Drive through our File Explorer, or we can go through the Chrome web interface. But regardless, whatever file or folder you're trying to get to will be the same. Okay? Now that we know that, and you will learn throughout today's training that sometimes it might be more efficient, flying, an example, to go through the Chrome web interface. Sometimes it might be more efficient and flying in that case to go through File Explorer. This is where you hopefully learn a few best practices to know which way is the most efficient depending on what you're trying to do. Okay, so keep that in mind as we go through this slide deck. But one other important factor that you do need to understand, regardless, that's why we spent beginning and intermediate training so much focus on that, is because Chrome is the engine, okay? And I'm just using transportation lingo, right? But regardless, if you love your Google Drive for Desktop, and there's nothing wrong with that, you still need to know these certain things and how to work with it inside Chrome, right? Because our Chrome web interface in the Google Drive interface has trash, shared with me, we have settings, we have a more robust way of searching, and some of these things cross over, activity, file version, it kind of go both ways, but regardless, you know, first of all, trash is a big one. Searching is more robust inside Chrome web interface. Shared with me. Why do you think in the world did I want to practice more about shared with me? Because if you're using Google Drive for Desktop and you don't do best practices, you're not going to find that file in your Google Drive for Desktop unless you make a conscious decision and put it in your My Drive. I wasn't wasting your time on understanding that process. So we understand that Chrome's the engine, okay? And here's another point. We talked about in the beginning Google Drive training that shared with me is your junk drawer, right? But if you care for that pair of scissors, you have to put it in a certain location so you can find your favorite pair of scissors. Same concept with your favorite file or folder that you're trying to use. The reason why I've been practicing that is because shared with me does not appear in your Google Drive for desktop. So you're not going to see shared with me. That filter, remember, it's not a location, it's a filter. And so you have to decide if that file is important, and then you put it in My Drive, okay? Add a shortcut to Drive, okay? So we will talk more about that. But remember, shared with me is a filter. It's also your junk drawer. Where do you want to put your scissors? So let's just talk a little bit more about Google Drive for Desktop. Again, this is just the same screenshot that we just saw earlier. It's a path to the letter whatever, fill in the blank, but it is your same files and folders that you have in the location My Drive, okay? That's what you see. But one thing a lot of people don't realize, inside your File Explorer, if you select a file or folder, you're going to get some options that just pertain to Google Drive for Desktop or Google Drive stored files or folders. So if you're like, I did not know that you can right-click on a folder, now you do. But when you do right-click on a file or folder, you will see some options that you do not see in your normal desktop or documents folder that are not stored in Drive. You will see new options that have a Drive icon next to it, such as Open with Google Drive. So if you're in Google Drive for Desktop and you click on a file or folder and you right-click, you will see the option to Open with Google Drive. What is the actual corresponding app, the native app for Google Drive? Chrome, right? And so if you want to open with Google Drive, it's going to then look like this in your Google Drive. You might want to do that depending on what you're working with. It's a shortcut. It's a right click. It's a shortcut. That's the action you want to take. You can select that Open with Google Drive by right clicking on a file or folder. You might want to copy a link. So remember, Google Drive is stored in the cloud, Neverland, right? So it allows you just to copy the link there. Don't we always copy a link and paste it in email? So please check out this document I have created, right? So you have that copy link to a clipboard option for you as well. And then you can paste it to wherever, maybe Chrome, maybe Internet Explorer. I don't know what you want to do, right? So you have that option to copy a link. Again, I am always right-clicking on this and you have that capability. Share. The great news is you actually don't have to go to Chrome to actually share a file or folder. You can actually right-click on that file or folder that you want to select. Who is making that sharing decision? You are. You right-click on that, select Share with Google Drive. Then you get a similar dialog box that you're used to. You've always kind of seen the same dialog box. It's going to give you the same pretty much view. You won't see much difference. It'll say Google Drive for Desktop, except for this one says Drive File Stream. Little outdated screenshot, but the concept's the same. You will then decide who you want to share it to. In this example, you can see that I'm sharing it to Chad. I'm determining to give him edit rights. I also have the get link option, the same things that we've been practicing in Google Drive Chrome. Now you have the same capability from Google Drive for Desktop as well. Add shortcut to Drive. So again, remember, shortcuts gives us the capability of adding a file or folder in multiple locations, but understand it's the same exact file or folder, right? That's the benefit of it. No longer having 6 different versions out there for the same document, right? It's the same file. Now you can right-click on a folder and decide to add a shortcut to a different location. Same concept if you choose to. You can manage versions on this. So this really applies a lot more in your Office products because when you file save, you have a new version, right? In Google Land, we know that it constantly saves. So even if it is a Google Doc, it's going to open up Chrome because Chrome is the corresponding app to that. So it's going to open up in Chrome. It's going to constantly save. But if you're using Microsoft Word, which we'll practice in a minute, you'll notice that you actually have to do a thing called saving, which is so hard for me because I don't do that very often. You have to save it and you'll have a new version. And so you have the option to manage versions in Google Drive for Desktop as well as in Google Chrome. So you have that option to maybe possibly see how many times you've saved it and how many versions you have. Now, this one I'm always hesitant to talk about, but it is important to be realized. In your Google Chrome web interface, you have the option to enable offline. So once you enable that in your settings, this is probably like the 5% of you that this applies to. So if you enable offline in your settings, then you have the capability both in Chrome web interface and in Google Drive for Desktop to make that file or folder and or both offline. Why would you need that? Let's say I'm an attorney, I go into a courthouse and case 101, I need to have available for my case, right? And that courthouse has really poor Wi-Fi, doesn't work very well, fill in the blank, or I'm a DNR rep and I work remotely and I just can't access and I need this file for this little activity in the camp, right? You can actually select that file and right click in Google Drive for Desktop. You'll select Drive and choose offline only, just like it's showing on the screen here. And once that does that, you will have the capability of opening that file without internet access. Now, we don't want you to do this for your entire My Drive or a whole big, huge infrastructure. It's not going to be good practice. Why? Because that's actually storing it locally on your computer. So that doesn't make a lot of sense to do that for a lot of things, right? It's just a one-off situation. Fill in the blank situation for you. But again, if you're worried about where you're going and you got a big presentation and whatever the case may be, and you don't know if you'll be able to connect to the internet, sure, make that PowerPoint slide deck offline so you can actually present and not have that issue, right? Or going to courthouse A. The good news is now that I went to the courthouse, had this case, typed up some notes offline, the next time I come back to the office and I make it, I'm on internet, I'm good, all those changes that I made offline will then automatically sync back to the cloud, okay? So I've got a good saved copy. Nothing I have to manually do. It'll automatically do that once I get back online. Now, other best practice is now that I'm done, I don't have to go to that court again. I'm done with that case. I would probably right click, make that available online again, so I'm not storing all that on my computer. Okay. So again, if you need more information on that, and you can see my note there, it's for unique cases, not recommended for a large amount, just because obviously, you know, it's going to take storage. It's got to get locally somehow, right? But this is much easier than trying to put on a flash drive or download it in on your desktop. It's going to stay in that same infrastructure. So for those that really do need this, it's going to save them a lot of time and headache. So keep that in mind. All righty, let's go to the next slide deck. We're going to talk about Office and Google Workspace and real-time presence. And I apologize, these are some of this particular one is really hard to demo. So this is why we do a slide deck. And it's also a great resource for you as well. So now that you kind of understand Google Drive for Desktop and how you can get there, like going to Vegas, flying or driving, however, right? And today, now we're going to learn some little more best practices, right? The thing is a lot of people love Google Drive for Desktop for one reason. They love their Office products. That's it. That's really why they like it. And the other reason that I think that most people like the Google Drive for Desktop is because you're familiar with it. It's the same way, in a similar fashion. I wouldn't say it's exactly the same, but in a similar fashion as you've always done it by accessing your network drive. Fill in the blank what letter it might have been, but you would have accessed your network drive, STUV, I don't know. You would have accessed that through File Explorer. So knowing that gives you some comfort zone, okay? So I understand why you love Google Drive for Desktop. And there is some benefits to it, absolutely. For a trainer, it's really nice to get those people exposed to Google Drive for Desktop through a tool they already know. Then they start learning the Chrome web interface and realize there's some benefits there as well, okay? So this is why we want to talk about Microsoft Office, because you guys are actually using that feature, those tools. There's nothing wrong with that. We get to still store them in Google Drive. We still get the collaboration piece. But we still need to know the knowledge and understand best practices on this. So let's dive deeper on the next step. So now that you're pretending that you have Google Drive for Desktop installed, you've got it on, one of the things that we recommend, and that is in the install slide deck as well, but we want to make sure you have the correct preferences settings set up within Google Drive for Desktop. And so you see on the screen, I'm not going to walk through this too much, but you would go here, check your preferences, walk through these steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, make sure it's mirrored exactly what I have shown here. We want to make sure that you have your settings, your preferences correct inside the app Google Drive for Desktop. One of those settings within your Chrome or in your Google Drive for Desktop is talking about real-time presence in Microsoft Office. Did I not just mention that we want to learn Google Drive for Desktop because you guys like your Microsoft Office tools? Well, we want to use all the bells and whistles with that, okay? So again, more screenshots to determine your settings, but we're going to dive more into Google real-time presence. So we've already seen this slide before. What is Microsoft? We know what those are. Word, Excel, PowerPoint, right? We know what those are. We know what Google Docs editors are, right? We've talked about this in immediate. Docs, sheets, slide. Same colors, look at the logos, repeat, right? So with that, when you have an Office file in Google Drive stored in the cloud, we know we can access that same Microsoft Word file either through Chrome or File Explorer. All right, so I'm going to put the hat on that I am a File Explorer, Google Drive for Desktop junkie. I absolutely love Google Drive for Desktop. I want to use Google Drive for Desktop, okay? I love Microsoft Office files, okay? Must be opposite day, okay? That's what we're going to do. So what we're going to do is I would find that file through Google Drive for Desktop. I would find that Microsoft Word file, and I'm going to double click that file, and it's a Microsoft Word. What happens? That's right. The same thing that's happened for years. Microsoft Word opens. What do we do in Microsoft Word? We start typing away. We make our changes. What do we do after that? We save it. Is it going to stay in the same location? Yes. If you want to change it to a different location, what do you have to do? File, save as, choose a different path. This is where I kind of like, I don't need to train you anymore. This is something you've done for years. Nothing's changed. Open a Microsoft Word in Google Drive for Desktop, same thing as opening it on your network drive. What happens? Word opens, you type, you save. Same thing works for Slide or PowerPoint and Excel. Nothing's changed, okay? Now that we know that nothing's changed, we're gonna move on. All right, now let's move on a little bit more. Maybe? There we go, come on. I'm frozen. There we go. I'm gonna roll too. Let's see what happens. Okay. Okay, I'm still here. If you guys are. Okay, I don't know what's going on. I'm like, everything is freezing. Okay, I hope you guys are there still. I'm not sure what's going on here. I think it's my computer. Okay, all right, let's go to, I hope you're with me here. Barden, bear with me. Sorry for the technical issues. That's the beauty of presenting, right? So now what you know is how do we work together, right? We know two heads are better than one, right? We know that. And we want to collaborate, right? But this is where you kind of need to understand the concept here. So we have the option of real-time presence in Microsoft Office. So what we're going to understand is based on your status, you will see the following options. We're just going to break it down in a scenario for you, okay? So let's pretend that Jolene and I are working together on an agenda, okay? Jolene and I are working on an agenda, okay? I come into the office. I get there early. That's not true. Usually I get to the office. I'm a Microsoft user. Remember, I love my Microsoft user, or my Microsoft Word user, and I love Google Drive for Desktop. Remember, opposite day, right? I love both of those. I'm going to double click that agenda and I open it up. I'm going to get Save to Edit. Okay. So let's just go through these pretty fast. I'm going to go through the whole version. These are the options you're going to see. So that's our scenario one. I got there first. I opened up the Microsoft Word file. I would get the following pop-up. Remember, Jolene and I are going to work on this together. It's not just my project. It's in a shared folder, right? But it's a Microsoft Word. And I love Microsoft Word application. I'm not going to use the Chrome web interface anymore at this current time. Okay, double click the Microsoft Word. I get Save to Edit. Okay, Jolene is not on this yet. Okay, Jolene decides to come to work. I'm picking on her, she's not here. But Jolene finally starts to trail in, comes to work. She needs to work on this agenda. But as the overachiever, as I am, I've already started this. So I have it open on my Microsoft Word on my computer. Okay, I have not saved it yet. I have not closed it yet. Jolene double clicks the agenda. She will get the following message: wait to edit. What does that mean? Jolene gets wait to edit. Someone else is editing the file. Who is editing the file? I am. And the beauty is actually will tell you that I'm in it. Okay? So what should we do next? I am done with the agenda. I should probably save it and close it. Jolene, in this case, should wait patiently until she gets Save to Edit, meaning that I'm done, right? It's okay. Jolene might also, now that I have filed Save It, this is a screen showing you wait to edit unsaved changes, shows you who's in it, okay? Now that I have saved it and closed it, Jolene would also get Save to Edit and this other pop-up saying new version available. Well, what should Jolene do? Jolene should click on new version available. Why would she want to work on the older version? They would give her the new version. She would then make the adjustments that she needs. Okay, so it goes to this present server to let us know who's working. Isn't that amazing? Amazing, right? All right, so you may want to look at it. Maybe you didn't do best practice, because that never happens. We all follow the rules, right? Maybe Jolene and I got on at the same time, so both worked away, didn't watch the pop-ups that Google's trying to help you. We just ignored them, right? Once you do that, you might run into a conflict, meaning Jolene's version, my version. The good news is they're at least still saving them. You're just going to have to choose which one you want to select. You guys didn't do best practice. You got a little more work, right? That's pretty much how it works. You're not paying attention to those pop-ups. You're not doing best practice. And if you're done working with your file, get out of it and save it. Those are good best practices to make this work better for you. It works pretty good, but it's good to know. We want to collaborate. Now, let's go to a different scenario. I am a Microsoft Office Word lover. Jolene is a Chrome web interface lover. She loves her Chrome, okay? So the good news is, even in the Chrome web interface, and I'm in Microsoft Word, it's still going to give Jolene a pop-up if I'm in it, in the sense a new version has been uploaded or saved. I wouldn't say in it. It's not going to give you a little icon that I'm in it, but it is going to say there's a new version once I save it, okay? So that's a little different. I misspoke there. So if I was saving the file, at the same time Jolene was on the document, she's going to get this following pop-up that shows a new version has been uploaded or restored. Changes have been saved in version history. Awesome. Okay. So this is why version history is your best friend. You're not going to, like, I'm giving you like the worst case scenarios of not doing best practices, right? So you got to be aware of that. But more than likely, it's not going to affect you too much, but do not ignore those pop-ups. If it is a collaborative document, keep in mind, if a pop-up comes up, just don't ignore it. It's important. Google's trying to help you. Hey, someone else is on here. Hey, I'm supposed to wait to edit. I should probably wait to edit. And if that person hasn't been doing anything and there's no save yet for 2 days, I'd probably send them a chat saying, will you please save your file and close it? Do what you need to do in that collaborative space that we're using, right? You need to communicate. Lack of communication causes conflict. Same concept here, right? So in the version history, you can go into versions history and manage versions. Remember, we talked about that in the right click in Google Drive for Desktop. Or you can go into the Chrome web interface and go to File, Version History, and see the breakdown of who did what and where. So if for some reason you have a conflict and people were kind of not doing best practice, you can go back to a version and restore it. Hallelujah, right? Hallelujah. So with that, you can see when you see an import docx, I know it's really hard to see, that's giving you an indication that someone wants to file, save in Google Drive for Desktop and put that there, okay? And you know by now we have the capability of restoring back to versions, okay? So we talked about the next step here in the intermediate training. We talked about how we can open Word files into Google Docs. Remember, right-click, open with, same concept that we're used to for years, right? We know these are corresponding apps, right? So when you open files in Chrome Web Interface, we've talked about that. If you wanted to open a Word file inside Chrome, you can do that now, right? We can do that, and it's not going to make a new copy. It's just going to keep it the Microsoft Office format. Why is that important? This is where I need to give you this scenario. We are in a meeting, right? And we have it in a Microsoft Word file, okay? Remember, I am the Google Drive desktop lover, right? And Jolene loves her Google Chrome. But if we're in a meeting and we're working on it at the same time, what in the world is that going to be very productive? We're going to have conflicts, aren't we? We're going to have conflicts because I'm working on it on a different version than she's working on it. So you have to know if you're working on something at the exact same time, open that Microsoft Word file inside Chrome. So if I'm in meeting A, and this is just an example, and we're in meeting A and we're collaborating on this Microsoft Word file, because it is, then you need to do that inside Google Drive Chrome web interface, okay? So keep that in mind. Like, that is a best practice, right? Last thing, just to throw another kink in this. This is why I'm giving you all these scenarios. You have to know what you want to do, right? I'm giving you ways to fly there, many different ways. What is your purpose with that file or folder? That's what you got to decide. What are you doing with it? Do I want to do this in Microsoft Word? Do I want to do this in Google Drive for Desktop or Google Drive Chrome Web Interface? Do I want to collaborate at the same time? What is your purpose? Then you change your own web quest and determine which way is better for you and for the scenario you're in. To throw one more option for you, this is really more for my Microsoft Office users, right? That love their Office, not really buying into the Google Docs native. That's fine, but then you need to take the time to understand how to operate it correctly, okay? The other option you have is in Chrome. You have a Microsoft Word file in Chrome. You have an extension you can install called Application Launcher, and it will open up the correct app that's attached to your computer. Let's give you a screenshot on that. So let's go, and I'm in Google Drive. I'm in my Chrome Google Drive. I have a Microsoft Word file, just like this example. I can open with the native app from Chrome, okay? And that app would be, ta-da, Microsoft Word. This extension gives you the capability of opening apps from your computer. So you might be in this hat, you're a 90% user of, I love the Chrome web interface. That would be more me, right? Love the Chrome web interface, love my drive. Someone did give me a Microsoft Word file that I need to work on. it's a little clunky. The compatibility is an issue. It's not working the way I want. Might be in that 10% range, not great compatibility. Well, then I need to use the native app. I would then right-click, choose the app that it belongs to, because I'm a navigator in Chrome, right? I'm not a navigator in Google Drive for Desktop. Remember, I changed tabs now. Then I would actually right-click, open up with Microsoft Word. I have saved myself how many clicks, right? Or what would have been the other option if I don't like this option? If I need to do this in Microsoft Word, I would then go find the destination of that file in Google Drive for Desktop and open that file. I feel like I go in circles in this presentation. So there is a link, or you can just Google Application Launcher for Drive by Google. This is an approved extension. You can install it, and then you can see how it works. So now that I have totally confused you, hopefully not, let's just make sure, repeat the best practices so you get the aha moments at the end here. Well, we got more training to come, but after the slide deck. Follow the pop-ups that appear in real-time presence. You'll see those both in the Google Chrome web interface and in Microsoft Word, Office files, PowerPoint, Excel, okay? So Microsoft Office files, that does not appear in Adobe. So I should have been clarified. That's Microsoft Office real-time presence. It's called Office real-time presence for a reason. Okay. If you are a lover of Microsoft Office files and you are not saving frequently and it's a collaborative document, no. Which you should always be saving frequently in Microsoft Office files anyway, do it. Save even more, right? Give the most updated version, store it in the cloud, and give your communication to your coworkers that might be working with that as well. If you're really not working with it, close it, okay? Close it. If it's a collaborative document, right? If you're collaborating at the same time, you need to open that Microsoft Office file in Chrome, okay? That is just best practice. Otherwise, you're just going to cause conflict. And I'm not making that word up. Conflict versions, right? If you're working at the same time, back to the scenario that Jolie and I are working on an agenda in the meeting at the same time, we needed to do it that way, right? Okay, so kind of keep that in mind. This portion of the training is, again, really focusing on your my Microsoft Office users that just can't let it go, and that's nothing wrong with that, but then you need to understand and follow those pop-ups. And there are times that Microsoft Office is the better option for certain things, right? But the thing, as I've said before in immediate training, Microsoft Office and Google are not besties. They are not. They are frenemies, right? They're friends and enemies, but they've gotten a lot better. They're better than acquaintances now. They hang out. They're interoperable. They're doing a lot more together than when we went live. They are getting there, okay? They're really getting there. You just have to pay attention to the updates and realize that they're working together. So let's dive into the demo portion of that. And again, that Google Drive for Desktop is there for you. Now, the first thing we're going to do in our demo is I'm going to show you how important the shared with me is concept. So remember, shared with me, recent, starred, and trash do not appear in your File Explorer. So if I pull up File Explorer in your Google Drive for Desktop, you'll notice if I go to my drive, you will see there is no shared with me, there is no recent, and there is no trash. Okay, so let's just test my theory. I have a document called Going on a Cruise. Not my document, someone shared it to me. So I'm just going to do what I normally do. I'm a Google Drive for Desktop user. I'm going to search for that file like I normally do. It's not there. Why is that? Because I didn't do best practices. So all that time I trained you in both beginning and intermediate wasn't a waste of your time, because this is an example. I want to find my document going on a cruise. Can you tell I'm on a vacation mode? I really want to go on a vacation. This document is not owned by me. It's owned by trainer 9. I'm trainer 13 today, going on a cruise. It's not in my drive, okay? I have not consciously decided to put that in my drive. It's in shared with me as a filter, but I still haven't done add shortcut to drive. as I've always done, which is why we did it for the first 2 trainings. So I want to do what we've done before. I'm going to quickly do this. I'm making a conscious decision to add a shortcut to a drive, and I'm going to take good practices, best practices, and I'm going to add a folder. I'm kind of going through this pretty fast because this is what we've done in the beginning intermediate. We know how to make folder infrastructures. So I'm going to type in amazing vacation, right? So all that practicing wasn't a waste. So now we've got this document going on a cruise, and I'm adding a shortcut to there. All right, let's just test our theory. So amazing vacation is appearing in my drive. Awesome. That document going on a cruise is inside that amazing vacation. I know that. The breadcrumbs say my drive, amazing vacation. Okay. Destination is amazing vacation. No pun in words. I did that on purpose. Amazing destination, amazing vacation. All right. Let's go and check. Can we get there through Google Drive for desktop? We go to the letter M. Could be a different letter for you. We go to my drive. And we cross our fingers because I'm training, you know how things go. And there is my amazing vacation. Who made the conscious decision going on a cruise is going to be there? Right? All right. Let's repeat that one more time just to make sure. Now I have another document. We're going on a plane. Well, maybe if I spell it right. So repeating the process here, going on a plane. I can obviously open the file, do the same thing. I can now add shortcut to drive. And I'm doing best practice, putting in the folder I want, and I'm going to add to that folder. So now I have 2 documents in there. All right, let's do one more thing, and then we're going to go back to Google Drive for desktop. What about a folder? Let's say I want to find a folder. Let's look for the folder vacation. Okay, before we go further, this vacation details is not in my drive. I have vacation time, but vacation details is not in my drive at all. In my drive. It's in my Google Drive, but not in my drive. So we already know that the vacation details is not going to appear in File Explorer, right? Because I have not done best practice. So now this time, I'm right-clicking again. This time it's a folder. So I'm just going to add shortcut to drive. So this time it's a folder, add shortcut to drive. I'm going to keep it in my drive just for this demonstration. Okay. Now we can see over here, vacation details is appearing in my drive in order in that way. Okay. But it does have a different icon than understanding file types, doesn't it? It has a shortcut. It's a shortcut to a file. So by definition, this is really a shortcut to a folder, right? It's a shortcut to this folder. All right. Let's check a few things. Let's bring up Google Drive for desktop. We go back to my drive. Remember, in amazing vacation, we have going on a plane. Awesome. Going on a cruise. Awesome. Both of them are there. Let's go back to my drive. Let's make sure we see the vacation one. Oh, I do not see it in here. Should be right here. Okay. This is a Microsoft Windows issue, not a Google issue. It's just how Google does this, or how Microsoft does this, is that particular vacation details is actually defined as a shortcut. So when you right click on a shortcut, and if it's in the parent folder, you'll notice the type is shortcut, and it kind of falls in alphabetic order within your files. Okay. Just one of those things. That's why I'm awareing you of that. So keep that in mind. Okay. So that's important to understand. Now let's do it reverse. Let's make sure we understand it. So we kind of see that whatever I put in my drive from Chrome, it will go there. But what about actually putting things in from Microsoft Word or creating a folder from here? Will it go to Chrome? I'm assuming you guys know this well, but let's just really understand the process, right? So let's create a folder infrastructure. And like you said, most of you know how to do this. So I'm going to zip through this. So I'm going to stick with my amazing vacation folder because that's really what we want to do, right? And I want to create a folder inside here. So like I said, I have Windows 11, so slightly different view, but you guys know how to create a folder inside a folder, right? This is something you guys have done for years. Well, maybe I still struggle. All right. I want to create a new folder. Again, slightly different view, just reminding you. I'm going to make a new folder called Vacation Idea 1. Okay. Now, I could create another folder inside here and call it Vacation Idea 2. Now, just to make sure that we are on the same page, do we have a folder inside here as well? We do. All right. Now, can we be collaborative inside here as well? We can. Remember, I want to go on vacation with Jolene. I think it'd be fun. So I probably need her ideas and help with this, right? So I'm going to not, because remember, I'm a Google Drive for Desktop friend now. It's my favorite way of doing it. I'm going to go ahead and decide I'm going to share this amazing vacation to Jolene or trainer 1 in this example. So notice, again, a slightly different. If you're in Windows 10, it should have some options right here that says Google Drive. Okay, you'll have the option to share. I just have to go down a little bit further in Windows 10, but it's the same look as this. I'm right-clicking, and notice that all these options that we talked about in the slide deck are available here for you. I'm not going to go over all these examples. You have share, you have copy, open in Google Drive, you have offline access. But the one that I want to do right now is I want to use share with Google Drive because that's the concept. We want to be collaborative and work together. 2 heads are better than 1. So I'm going to share. In this case, it's a different description at the top for the dialog box, but it's exactly the same way that we're used to sharing, right? It looks almost identical. So I'm going to share to trainer 1, who's Jolene, pretend. Trainer 1 is going to be my editor. And again, same things that we talked about, intermediate. What folder am I sharing? And hit send. Okay. Now you'll notice some visual indicators. Notice now you barely can see it, and I apologize. I can't make this much bigger, I don't think. Not very well anyway. Notice though the icons have changed. It's very small in here, but you have a cloud, and now you have a person. So that's your visual indicator this folder is shared. Okay. All right. And the same things go here. So everything in Amazing Vacation, notice, is now shared as well. Okay. To trainer 1. So the whole propagating that we spent in Media Training on all happens as well in here. It functions the same, right? Functions the same. Okay. Now let's think that I'm a Microsoft Word user. I've got Microsoft Word open. I'm not going to create this in Google Docs. No way, no how. I want to plan our next vacation, and we're going to Vegas or somewhere warm. I don't even like Vegas. It's just something I choose. Hawaii sounds better. So we've got our agenda, where we're going. I got a Microsoft Word file. It's a brand new document. What do you have to do in Word? You don't have to do in Google. You have to save it. Well, I probably need to choose a location on where to save it. So I'm going to go ahead and go to File, and I'm going to go to Save As. This is what you've been doing for years. And I probably don't have that same location. If I did, I could just select it, but it's not there because I want to put it in our Amazing Vacation folder. So I need to browse. So when you're switching from a network drive to a Google Drive, you're just going to look for a different letter. Okay, you're going to look for Google Drive. You're going to go to My Drive. We're going to find that same destination. And I think this is Vacation Idea 1. So I'm going to call it Vacation Idea 1. Right? Idea 1. I'm going to put it inside. Notice the path. Something you've done forever, right? It's how you save files. I hit save. Awesome. Okay. All right. Now let's do that one more time. All right. I'm going to, I close Word. I'm not gonna do that because I'm gonna run out of time, but the same concept, right? We know how to save, right? We know how to save and put them in there. So that concept hasn't changed, but let's just double check that everything's in our Chrome web interface, because we just need to make, seeing is believing. So I'm in look at my path again. It's refreshing here. Give me a minute. My path is my drive, amazing vacation. Do you think all that stuff is in there? So we go to vacation 1. There is a Microsoft Word file there. Now, let's just recap one of our scenarios. Jolene and I are working on this vacation idea at the same time. What should we do? We need to plan our vacation at the same time. It's a Microsoft Word. What should we do? We should double click this and open it with Google Docs, the corresponding app. Then she could be on at the same time. Does it change it from Microsoft Word to Google? No. Okay. So let's remember that. Okay. So keep that in mind. Now, I just want to go back to File Explorer. Let's go to a folder that I already have created in the past training. So I want to look at this one. This was our objectives file types. We talked about this in the immediate training. So we just want to remember, if this is a PowerPoint and I double click this PowerPoint, what's going to happen? PowerPoint's going to open from File Explorer. If I was in a PowerPoint in Google Chrome web interface, what's the corresponding in there? That's going to be slides, right? Okay. So keep that in mind. The other thing I want to point out, though, from here, this one says business letter. What type of document is it? Well, one, we can tell it's a Google Doc, right? Because it has a Doc logo. It also tells me the file type. What's the corresponding this case? It's going to open up, that's correct, Chrome and Google Docs, right? It's not going to open in Word, right? It's not going to open in Word. That's not the corresponding app with that, right? So keep that in mind. You do have the option to open, gives you that option, open, but you do have the similar, show me more options. Open with Google Docs. You can always right click, copy, add shortcut to drive, so much more. Okay. Let's right click on a folder or file that's in Microsoft Office. Let's see what options we have there. Now you have a few more. Manage versions, add shortcut, share, so much more. Okay. So don't forget the right click option. Okay. Let's talk about version history just for a second. So this is where you can find version history in a Microsoft Word or a Google Doc. Same thing with sheets, slides, all etc. But you go to File, see version history, and there's not much version on this one. Let's do this one. This one was saved. Remember, this one was actually saved. Version history. I'm going off tangent here, so it's always a little shady. But not much on here because I just saved it, right? But this says imported docx. That kind of tells you it does tell you that it's been saved at a snapshot time, right? At a snapshot time. Now, if I edit this Microsoft Word file inside here and I make changes, notice last edit was a second ago. It's changing everything fast, right? Now let's look at the version history. It only has one, but it would give me more if I would let it go more, right? Okay. All right. So keep that in mind. It keeps it in a minute increments. So with that, that's a lot of information, but it kind of goes to the people that need Microsoft Office use, right? So that's kind of the purpose of this whole thing. Last couple things I want to go. It's kind of off Google Drive for desktop and all that. It's one, pin sharing with a non-Googler. How does that work? Select multiple files and application launcher. I will do application launcher at the end, and then we'll go from there. Before I do that, I do want to show you one more thing, that this has actually been a lot of tickets that have been open. So I must not be doing my job on this. So we're going to actually train on this. So if I do delete this file case study from here, I'm making a decision to delete this file. I can go to show more options, and I can delete. Okay. Where is that file? The file's gone. You owned it. It's gone. You deleted it. You're the owner of it. You deleted it. So you own it. You deleted it. Where is it in case you did not mean to delete it? This is, remember where Chrome is the engine? Remember the train with the Chrome engine? You need to go back to your Google Drive and trash. There is that file. Remember, shared with me, recent, start, and trash are not in Google Drive for desktop. Right? So you would have to go to your trash bin inside Chrome. Okay? All right? That's something somehow I'm missing that on training, so I apologize. I want to make sure I'm actually demoing that. So the other thing we want to do is pin sharing. So pin sharing is something that a lot of people aren't using, but we can. Unfortunately, we have, or unfortunately, I want to look at it. We do have some agencies that are not on Google, right? So it kind of makes it kind of hard to collaborate with them, right, at times. Well, good news, Google's got your back. We can share things to our non-Google users, right? And actually give them some capability of collaborating. Now, it's not going to be the full, robust, everything works seamlessly. Remember, friend enemies, think of the theme. We're working better together, but not perfect, right? It's a very, shaky relationship. But what we have here is we have a folder here that I'm going to share to a non-Google. The only non-Google account I have access to is my personal Yahoo that's like older than old. But I'm going to go ahead and share this folder and pretend that I want this Yahoo account user, which we know Yahoo is not a Google account user. So it could be an Office user, it could be, Hotmail if that's still around. I don't know. So if you can go ahead and share just like you normally would. So now I'm kind of changing hats, but this is more an advanced feature. I want to share to a non-Googler. This is really something we need to know how to do and how it works for them as well. So the non-user that I have in this case is a really old account, okay? But you can see, obviously, it's not a Google user. One thing you need to know, when sharing to a non-Google user, you do not get the capability of not notifying them. You have to notify them, okay? It won't let you not notify them. You can still send them a message, do all that. You could just give them viewer access, commenter, and editor. Your choice, okay? This works for files as well. Same concept, same sharing. The only difference is you're sharing to a non-Googler and you have to notify non-Googlers, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and hit send. It's going to warn you. Are you really sure you want to share to someone that's outside of Google Workspace? Yes. All right, what happens for the non-Googler? So bear with me. The non-Googler, I'm logging in now to a Yahoo account. And again, this is really old, so I don't even know what's on here. Oh, let's hope it comes in here. All right. Oh, I just saw it. Okay. Trainer 13, which was me just 2 seconds ago, shared this folder to, oh my goodness, computer. There it is. I have gotten this folder, non-Googler, Yahoo account. Okay. I'm going to click on it. I know who she is. I'm going to trust it. I'm going to go ahead and open it. And I'm going to stop and look at this. So again, I got the hat on of a non-Googler right now. I do not have Google. I'm not a Google Workspace user, okay? But I got something from a Google Workspace user and I want to have access to it. Verify your email. To continue, first verify it's you, and we'll send you a verification code. Oh, well, that's me. I want to have access to this. Send me a code, Google. Google will then send you a code to the non-Googler, not you particularly. And Google will send a code to the non-Googler. Go ahead and copy it. And I'm going to paste that in. And I'm going to hit next. Now, this is what the non-Google user looks like. They can still view, for the most part, Microsoft Excel, PowerPoint, and slides. I'm sorry, Word. They do not have the capability of editing this like we do. We, as in Google Workspace users. Why? They do not have a true Google Drive, right? They don't have a true Google Drive. It's a temporary location bookmark to this particular location. They're a visitor session. They're a visitor. You're giving them visitor rights to this, right? So they don't have the capability of opening Microsoft Word files and editing them, even though I gave her editing rights. So again, not best practice sometimes. But the good news, though, that Google Docs will let you open a Google Doc and collaborate on this one as a non-Googler. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm the Yahoo user right now, and I'm making changes to a Google Doc native, docs, sheets, slides. The non-Googler can update those. And actually, we'll record the version history. It'll actually tell you that JRPencil32 at Yahoo is the one that updated that particular area. Okay. Now, some people want to use this as a Dropbox. Oh, why can't I upload anything here as a non-Google? Because you don't have a true Google account. You're a visitor. It's like having access to the hospital room, but you don't have access to the entire hospital. Okay. So you're kind of a temporary visitor. Okay. So you do not notice in this account, I do not have ability to upload, right? So keep that in mind as well. The good news, though, if I still want to see this Excel file, I can view it and I can download it. It still gives me somewhat of a Dropbox feeling, not a complete Dropbox, but at least it works that way, right? The other thing is they're not going to have the drive icon. So next thing I get from people is like, oh, why can't I find my files? Well, you don't have a Google Drive. You don't have a true Google Drive. So they're not going to have the waffle and go to Google Drive. Think of this as a web page. So what I would tell people, bookmark this link. It's a hyperlink, right? We talked about that. Google loves their URLs, right? So we would just bookmark this. And then the next time the Yahoo user comes in, I need to check that thing. I can click on that and I can see it. And if it's past 7 days and it's the 8th day and I click on that, all Google's going to ask me to do again as a non-Googler is to actually verify who I am again and send me another code. All right. I will say there is a really valuable resource on the currents page and on the script that has a really good YouTube video, and it walks through both the Google user and the non-Googler, right? Then what you can do then is if you are sending something to a non-Google for the very first time, like DHS or something, and like, I don't know what you're telling me to do, then I would provide them that video and saying, hey, this is what you're going to need to do. Okay. It's 2 minutes long, easy. Once they do it once, they're going to know how to do it. Okay. And I do think off topic or on topic, but more is to come with this. So I think good news for us. So more to come with that. Don't know exactly yet, or can I disclose yet? With that, the next thing is selecting multiple files and changing. I like this one. So for example, let's say I have this folder in here. You know by now we can hold the Shift button and the Control button. It gives us different capabilities of doing things in our Google Drive. So for example, if I want the Word document and the PDF, that's all I want. And notice there, I don't want the PowerPoint, sheets, and slides. I would have to hold down the Control button, and then I'd be able to select just those two. Now, if I want it to be sequential, I could select the first one and hold the Shift button, and it would select it all, right? I feel like that's something we all kind of know by now. Control, intermediate, sequential, Shift. S, that's kind of remember, okay? So when I just want a few at a time, I can make a mass of actions no matter what I select. So in this example, I can right-click and choose Share. Okay. Well, I like this. Then I would show me in a different case. It would then I can multiply, just give trainer 1 access to just those 2 files. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So now you'll notice I just made in a bulk way, shared both of those files to trainer 1. Do you want to believe me? Trainer 1 has access to this one. Trainer 1 has access to the PDF, but does trainer 1 have access to the PowerPoint? No. So you can do that in the masses. So let's select all of them this time just to see how different it looks, because they might have, now they have different permissions. So now I use the shift button or Control A in this case. Either way, you can hit share and it varies. Notice this time trainer 1, it varies, right? So it's a little different. Okay, now I'm deciding that I want trainer 1 to have edit rights to everything. Okay, this screen is different depending on what you're doing. Okay, so you can actually do a lot of the shift and control and really adjust permissions in the bulk. And that can be very helpful, especially when we have a lot of granular permissions that you don't always want to propagate down. So maybe it's evaluation, sub-evaluation. I want my manager to see all my sub-evaluations, but not my evaluation. Something stupid like that, right? You get what I'm saying? Like you might have more granular permissions that you might want. So know that the shift and the control button works great. It's a great way to select multiple files or folders at once. Last thing is application launcher. So in the Chrome web interface, you can just Google it too, but if you want, you could go to the Chrome Web Store. I'll just walk you through this. Chrome Web Store, or it might be up here. This account doesn't have it there. And you go to the Chrome Web Store. This is where you look for extensions, and you can type in application launcher. Oh, by Google. Well, I hope if I spell Google right. Application. Well, application launcher for Drive. Let's try that. Or you go to the slide deck that I gave you the right link. This is really, I wonder why this is doing that. Extensions. All right, bear with me. Well, that's how it should work. Let's try this way. Application launch for Drive by Google. That's what I want. That's not it. That's really strange. Just downloaded this. All right, let's go back to the slide deck. Let's make sure that link is working. Yeah, this is it. Application launcher for Google by that. Yeah, that's it. I have mine already installed, so that's the link. I don't know why I can't find it right now. But anyway, I just wanted the link earlier, but it's in the slide deck if you want, or try to start finding it, but that's exactly what it is. I've already added it to save time, but you would add and install that, and then you would have it up here in your puzzle piece, and you would find application launcher for Drive. I had pinned it. It doesn't really need to be pinned, but you can pin it just to see it visible. But an extension is a way to make things more productive within your Chrome web interface or your Chrome browser. So what it does is this is going back to, I love my Google Chrome web interface. I don't want to use Google Drive for desktop, but someone has sent me a Microsoft Word file and it no longer works great in Chrome web interface. I think I'm going to have to use the native app, which is Microsoft Word. Scenario 1. So I'm going to go ahead and right click on that Microsoft Word file that I need to work on, and I can choose Open With. Now, if you do not have Application Launcher on there, you're not going to see Microsoft Word because that's the native app for this particular document, right? It is not Google Docs. It's Microsoft Word is the native app, not corresponding app, native app. So I'm going to go ahead and open Microsoft Word. What's it going to do? Open that Microsoft Word file in Microsoft Word. And notice this time it gave me real-time presence option. It's safe to edit. I did not ignore my pop-up because this is a collaborative document. So goes to the real-time presence server, determines if, hey, someone on it? Nope, safe to edit. If someone is on it, you might want to wait to edit, read the pop-ups, and so much more. So anyway, off tangent, but thank you, Google, for providing that pop-up to make sure you check it. But what Application Launcher does, again, is open the app from your computer or from your Chrome to a computer, for your computer app. So let's just do it a different way, another file so you can see it. So this is a PowerPoint, open with PowerPoint. It would open up PowerPoint, okay? The only reason I'm seeing PowerPoint is because I have Application Launcher extension installed. This is a Google Doc I open with. It's not going to say Word because that's not the native app. The native app is Google Docs. It's going to open up in Google Docs, right? So kind of remember that. Oh, that's a lot of information for you, but that kind of should help you out a little bit with all of the stuff that we have learned throughout. Just want to remind you that the Google Drive for Desktop does have the resources there again here. If you want, check it out. If you want to check out those slide decks and those resources that we went over. So that's that. As for the agenda, let's go to training. Just to show you, to make sure you know where those resources are. This document that's posted here will be posted on the training page shortly after the video, but you have access now as a live stream user. But this is the script that I used and kind of walked through today. So you can kind of maybe like test out. Now you're obviously going to have the files or folders that I'm demonstrating, but it does give you some capability. I wanted to point this out. This is that YouTube video that I mentioned here, visitor sharing. If you are sharing to a non-Google, such as DHS, IWD, IBERS, and they're like, I want access to something that you have, and you don't want to send it as an attachment because that's really clunky and not up to date, you can send them to a non-Google. There's a great resource there. James from Google did a nice video on it. So, and it actually shows an Office user as well. There's another resource there for you as well. But again, there's the extension. If those that want it, it's had a hard time finding it because I went off script, and that's usually what happens. With that, I guess I'm done early. There's a lot of information today. Again, I just want to, it did tie everything in that we talked about. Hopefully from the beginning, you can see maybe now why we spent so much time adding shortcuts, because you're going to have to find it in your Google Drive for Desktop for those users. Make sure you do not ignore the pop-ups. If you're working on the documents at the same time, a Microsoft Office file, you need to use it in Chrome. Okay, there's no wrong way of using, there's no wrong application. Chrome is not wrong. Google Drive for Desktop is not wrong. Okay, please understand that. There's really no wrong way in the sense of your favorite. But there is wrong ways of choosing which way is best at certain times, right? So please understand there's a 10% window sometimes where you need to know, I'm not doing best practice. I'm causing more of a conflict, right? So kind of remember that, okay? We want to collaborate. We want to do that. If you are collaborating a lot, then stay off the Microsoft Office files and get them in Google Docs natives, because if you're on the same document, then you have no one that's going to accidentally open it up in Microsoft Word, okay? All right, so just remember that. Again, we chose Google in the sense of collaboration, and collaboration. Two heads are better than one. We know that. We're more productive. We're more efficient. So keep all those big picture items in there for you when you maybe are a little frustrated, okay? With that, I am here to help. If you have any questions, please reach out to me directly. If not, I will see you at the Google Docs training that's coming up next week. I'll see you guys later. Have a great day.